All right. So nice to see everyone. So go ahead, sit, cross the shins. Place the hands on your thighs, press down, lift the spine up, drop the shoulders away from the ears. Lean front to back slightly. Try to find your body weight equal in the hips. If you're not sure of where that is, you can take your fingertips onto the floor next to your hips or onto your bolster or whatever. So your thumb is forward and your pinky is back and your three fingers are to the side. And if you lean forward, you'll feel more weight in the thumb. If you lean back, you'll feel more weight in the pinky. You kind of go front to back a little bit till you kind of find that middle ground for your hips. Once you've hit center, place your hands on your thighs again. Try to keep center, push down and lift the spine. Draw the shoulders away from your neck. Take a nice warm breath in, or cool breath. Hope it comes warm. Exhale and let your shoulders drop, but keep your chest lifted. Eyes closed for a minute. And just sit with your breath for a moment. Feel where you are. And when you ask yourself that, to feel where you are, what comes up for you? What are the first thoughts, feelings, or senses that you pick up? Don't make judgments. Don't deep dive them too much. But if it's like, I'm cold, I'm in my room, I'm cranky, that's okay. I'm grateful, I'm on my mat. Whatever it is, just pick up for yourself where you're at, where your senses think you are. And yes, you are on your mat, but you're also in your home. You know, a lot of different things. A lot of things can be true at once. But the thing that is dominating our senses or our moment is so easy to think that is our entire world. So just see what your first instinct tells you where you are, because then you can start to go from there away from that if you need. And give yourself permission to recognize that even though you might be in a good situation, it's okay to have feelings about the negative aspects of your process or where you are, and vice versa. We do not have to live in only one state. We have the bandwidth and the emotional strength to hold many. We can be sad and grateful, happy and fear, angry and shame, and more. You could be in a place where it's cold, but it's also comforting of your home. When we come to our mat, it's the chance to see more facets of where we are, what we're taking in, and ultimately choose how those integrate, how those all come together to create the things that we will choose to do going forward from here. Not looking for the right answer, but looking for an answer or a direction or a choice for ourselves that will do well for us and the world. So let your practice tonight, my friends, be one of awareness of where you tend to think you are and what's going on, and growing from there so you can recognize the multifaceted power of yourself, the options, the great parts and pieces, and then ultimately you can choose how all these connect and move you into the future. Maybe with grace, humor, and ease. Bring your palms together at your chest, thumbs touching your sternum. We'll Om shortly 3 times and begin. Take a breath. Oh. 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 Bow your head. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. When you're ready, bring your hands into your lap. Let your head rise and your eyes open. All right. So, I like all the dogs have surrounded her to try and keep her warm or get her warm from her. This is very fun. Grab a yoga block if you have one. If you don't have a block, it's okay to use other height creating props, bolsters, books, blankets, whatever you got. Yeah. Sit on your block with your legs stretched straight out in front of you in Dandasana, please. I think everyone here in class tonight is somewhere where it's cold. I'm pretty sure I know where everyone is, and ain't no one warm. You're right, I might have various levels of heat, but so in yoga, everyone sit on your blocks, both legs straight. In Kundalini, it's most often known as the breath of fire. There's a lot of pranayama work about building heat in the body. But in asana, the physical practice, there is a ton of that too. There's a lot of poses that traditionally increase the heat of the body through circulation, through physical movement. And it's not as many of the poses that you would think would be standing or backward bends and things like that. You can do a forward bend, lots of seated forward bends. Actually, when you work the legs correctly, warm the body up to a pretty impressive degree. So sitting on a block in Dandasana with both legs straight in front of you. Take both feet about as wide as your yoga mat. So your heels are on the, we turn the lights up, maximum. All right, thank you. Oh, that's much better. Ooh. So when you're sitting with your heels mat width apart, legs straight, flex your feet, pulling your toes back, dorsal flexing the foot. Try to stretch the Achilles tendon down and push your heels into the floor or mat and try to drag that surface apart. You're trying to flex the thighs, rotate them in slightly, and then pull your yoga mat wide. So you have to flex the inner thigh muscles. Big part of what creates a lot of circulation in the pelvis, the low torso to the legs, is the inner thighs rotating in and broadening. So as you push down through the heels, narrow your legs a little bit, Suzette. When you push down through the heels and drag against the floor, notice which leg does not stay flexed. Your toes or foot may stay flexed on that leg. But for me, when I push my heels down and try to drag, my left leg doesn't get in it as well. My foot grips up weirdly. So you have to flex those top part of the legs, pull apart, and then take an exhale, stretch both arms straight up, palms facing in. So full Dandasana. Good. Push those heels down. Notice how your legs went out when your arms went up. And then be aware of how the tendency is to lean forward or back. Mostly your lower back will want to go back. Your chest will want to go forward. So your upper third of your torso, lean it back. Move your arms back, chest back. While your legs fire, pull the mat apart and lift your lower back up away from your hips. The natural S curve of the spine. Pull the mat apart. Take a nice deep breath. Take your right hand down to your outer left thigh. Stretch your left arm up taller. Work both legs. It's more important to keep both your legs rotating in and pulling the mat apart than the twist. Start to pull with your right hand. Move your left ribs back. Draw your right ribs towards the foot. You're just using the right hand on the outer thigh to start that rotation. And notice how your left leg wants to quit working the minute you start to twist, because you're pivoting on your right hip. So when you start to twist, pin your left hip down so it goes into your back muscle. Drag the yoga mat apart, lift through that left rib cage, push that left hip down. So you're separating the left side body as much as you can during rotation. Quads flex and breathe. So when you separate the left side body, the left hip pins into the block or the sit bone, left ribs ascend, take your left arm back behind you any degree and stretch the arm wide. So now you're pulling the left shoulder blade away from the spine as the right arm pulls you into the twist. Bring the arm up, untwist, do the other side. Both arms up first, stretch tall, separate the ribs from the sit bones on each side so each sit bone pushes down. Spine lifts, legs pull the mat apart, thighs are flexed. Take your left hand to your outer right thigh. Stretch the right side taller, pushing that sit bone into the block, ascend the right ribs and start to twist. And take your time. That's why we're not immediately stretching the arm out away from the body. I want you to feel as you go through this twist how your legs quit working, because if we're going to use seated poses and probably a couple standing to start creating a lot of warmth in the body or circulation at least, you got to be aware of how they want to engage and disengage. And can you keep both legs active even when you're moving the spine? Take a breath, keep the right sit bone down, the right ribs up, stretch your right arm back behind you, stretching the right shoulder blade towards the hand. So you feel that upper part of your back have to open. And it can be very difficult to keep that rotation. The back muscles might be tight, the legs might be getting tired, but that right leg, the side you twisted to, might want to quit. Take a breath, untwist. All right. Great. Come off your yoga block, sit on the floor. If you find that sitting on the floor makes you slouch backwards, it's okay to still sit on a prop. But now take your block between your knee joints, narrow. So your legs are going to be straight. The block will be tall. Squeeze the knees into the block. And I want you to look at your knee joints and make sure which way they're rotated. Is the knee pointing up, center of the kneecap? Pointing straight up, does it roll in or does it roll out? And you want to try and get that kneecap to point straight up, regardless of what it makes your feet do. We'll get to the feet. So squeeze that block. Press your fingertips into the floor next to your hip to help your spine lift. Work on separating the ribs away from the pelvis as much as you can. You're trying to take weight out of the pelvic bowl with the arm. The more that happens, and you squeeze the legs in and make sure those knees point straight up, when you squeeze in like that, it makes those thigh muscles flex that can broaden the hips and create some different circulatory changes down through the legs. Try to keep your legs, try to keep the lift, stretch both arms up, ribs up, sit bone down. Take your right hand to the outside of your block. Block, not your knee. Oh yeah, I said the block, because now you have to squeeze your legs into that block, pull on the block with your right hand, twist to your left again. And now you can feel that block push against the left knee, and that left knee has to squeeze the block or you lose the pose, or you lose it all. Take your left arm out, extend the shoulder blade towards the hand. Take a breath, and remember the ribs you're trying to lift out of the pelvic bowl. This is actually why so often in this tradition of yoga, we teach a lot of poses seated on props. It helps the spine lift if you're tight. It takes less power when your hips are higher. Bring the arm up, take the right arm up, get your height, right arm up. Take a nice breath, left hand to the outside of the block, pull against the block. It's a lever, it's there to challenge your legs. So let it challenge them, rotate to the right. That right leg's got to stay in it now. And then stretch the right arm out and continue your twist. You may not twist far, but work your legs more than you're fighting the twist. If you have a wall behind you, it's very nice to use a wall to help rotate. All right, untwist. You cannot reach your feet with both hands. Grab a strap to go around your feet. So now, squeeze your knees into the block. If you can grab your feet, you take your index middle finger, make the hooks, grab your big toes. If you cannot grab your feet comfortably with your hands, Pochamuchanasana, seated forward fold, use the strap around your heels to get that. Now, what I want you to do, squeeze your knees into the block, squeeze your thighs into the block. We extend a lot the upper body. We want to try and free as much space here from mid back down to lower back, because the more space and stretch we get, movement we get from the mid ribs down to the glute, it will make a difference to your circulation. There's a pose we're working towards to at least practice tonight that is known to be a pose that generates an immense amount of heat. And it's a seated pose. It's almost a laying down pose, but that's a trap, I promise. So now, pull on those toes and lift your spine up. It's not about going down deep. You don't want to fold up yet, but what you want to do is think about, can you squeeze that block and pick your bottom front ribs up away from your thighs? This is an extension and lift. The more you push your legs down, push that block down, and the more you try to lift from the front abdominals up, which can be challenging. So take a deep belly breath, and when you exhale, pull the abdomen back, pull the bottom front ribs back a little bit. Someone said once, knit your front ribs to your back ribs, and then lift that. So your whole front body is trying to push to your back body so that there's something to lift on. And hold. Now, this isn't about, well, I want more stretch. This isn't about forcing this. This is more about training the upper body muscles, especially the upper back, to lift off the mid to lift off the lower, lower to lift off the hips. Hi, John. All right, take a nice deep breath. Bring your body up. Take your block on edge. You're going to bring your feet closer together and your calf muscles up on top of that edged block. So your knees will be slightly bent. So from here, if you can reach forward and grab your big toes, great. If you cannot, use a strap around your feet. But I would like your feet, if you can, have a little bit of space between your knees when your calves are resting on the block. So, all right, grab a hold of the strap or your toes, same action. But instead of straightening the knees, I want you to rotate your thighs internally as deep as you can. So the knee joints are trying to roll towards each other, and then press your calves into those blocks as hard as you possibly can without straightening the knees. Then pull with the arms, not to pull yourself forward, pull a little bit, and then pull your chest up. You're trying to pick your rib cage up between the arms as much as you possibly can. Now that your chest back is engaged, try to, as best you can, push your calves down and rotate your thighs internally towards each other. This might make your outer hips cramp, might make your inner thigh cramp. If it is, congratulations, you're working in the right stuff. If it's not, congratulations, you're still working with awareness that you're completing all of these parts and pieces to create some flexion and work. Thighs roll in, calf pushes down, spine pulls up. So bend your elbows just a micro bit so you feel your back muscle flex, and pull your shoulder blades down your back to lift your heart. All right, come on out. Take your yoga block, set it to the side. And I lied, you're not going to set it to the side. What you're going to do is lay on your back and you're going to place it tall. We have to warm up the abdominals. So now we've seen the trouble is that it's hard to get the spine to lift, not just because your back is tight, because the abdominis has to actually be a part of what helps does it. So when you lay down, you're going to take your block, tall and narrow at the crown of your head, and squeeze your palms into it. Yeah, some of you know what's coming. Oh, I love that look. Squeeze your palms into the block, squeeze your elbows together above your face. Keep them touching. Stretch your legs straight out. Point your feet. Rotate your thighs in. You're doing it, Suzette. Don't worry, I'll tell you when you're wrong. You know me. Elbows squeezing in. Elise, try to pin your bottom ribs down. More. So you want to have a small arch of your lower back. So make sure that your pelvis is rotating to the sky. So your tailbone's rotating to the floor. So you have a small arch of your low back. But then take a deep breath, squeeze your palms into the block and pull your front ribs down like you're trying to touch your back bottom ribs to the floor. Elbows touching each other above your face. Everybody, and keep them there. Now lift both legs up 30 degrees off the floor, pointing your toes. Two things have to happen. Bottom ribs stay down. Low back arches up ever so slightly. Stretch your legs away from your thighs at 30 degrees. Take a breath. Think about what it takes to feel the left and right side of your pelvis push into the floor, so your abdominals must work. Go up 30 more degrees till you're at 60-ish. I know none of you've probably got like a gradient scale there next to you, but it should not be straight up in the air. Stretch both legs straight up. Elbows pinned tight. Pull your bottom ribs down. Take your shoulders away from your ears and let them stay wide, but let the upper back broaden. So your elbows stay tucked in. Your shoulders don't crawl up, but they pull down and go wide. You're trying to separate as much back muscle from the center of your spine as possible. Lower your legs back to 60. Lower your legs to 30. Point the feet, stretch the legs out, bottom ribs pinned to the earth. They do not fly up into the sky. Exhale, relax your legs to the floor. All right. Are you warm yet? I hope you're all warming up. One more round of that, and then we'll move on. Elbows tight together, keep them there. Palms tight to the block. Bottom ribs down, low back arches slightly. Bottom ribs are the most important part because you have to widen your back muscle. Exhale, pick up both legs 30 degrees, toes pointed, stretching the leg away from the hip. $60 degrees. Straight up. You got this. Pin those elbows in. Broaden your upper back. Shoulders away from your ears. All right, legs down. All the way. Nice. Tight. Cross your right ankle over your left thigh. Right ankle over left thigh. On your own power, do not use your hands, best you can. With your right ankle over your left thigh, pick up your left foot off the floor, pulling your legs towards your chest. No hands, just on your own core strength. Push your right foot ankle into the left thigh, flex that left thigh, push it into the foot ankle. Stretch your arms overhead, laying the back of your hands onto the floor, and stretch your arms away from the shoulder. Pull your bottom ribs down into the ground and exhale. Keep the legs pulled up. Take both legs, twist to the left so your left foot or your right foot hits the floor. It lays on the floor. The left foot also lays on the floor. Push your right ankle against the left thigh, pull your left thigh into the foot, and let that right hip go into the rotation as you still stretch both arms overhead. Legs up, switch feet. Yeah, okay. Left ankle over right thigh, pull the leg to you on its own strength. Stretch the arms, keep the bottom ribs pinned. Take both legs to the right into the twist. Take a nice deep breath in, untwist. Put your feet down. Sit on up. Have a seat on some support, a block, bolster, blankets, whichever you want. Both legs stretched straight in front of you again, Dandasana. From Dandasana, both legs straight, thighs together, all that stuff. From here, bend your right knee, pull your right thigh towards your chest. Left hand will grab your right foot. Right hand grabs right knee. Pull the shin bone towards your chest 90 degrees. Now, whenever you get your foot up to whatever height, and your foot could be way down here, that's fine. I'm not super worried. What I want you to work on from here is the effect of the foot pushes or points against the arm. And then you want to notice where the bend is happening in your back. For a lot of us, including myself, the tendency is to slouch into the mid to low back for the rounding action, and the upper back flattens. This is where we actually lose a lot of mobility in the spine. So what I would like for you to do is lean forward just a hair, lift your lower spine up, lift your ribs away from the low back, right? And then round your upper spine towards the shin. So your back body broadens around the shin bone, and you bend the elbows to create that. So the low back lifts, the upper back rounds and widens. This will be important for later pose work. But we want to take that pressure off the lower and broaden it to the upper. And to do that, you have to take those belly breaths, pull those bottom front ribs to the back ones, so the back ribs widen, and lift all ribs up. How's that feel? Feels stretches there, doesn't it? Kristen says this feels weird. I think you've got at least a third of the class agreeing with you. Exhale, let your leg go, switch sides. Feels weird, but it feels good on your back. Pick your left shin up, pull it in.
What do I do with my chin when I'm rounding those shoulders?
What I like to do, that's fair. So when you're here, spine lifted, back rounded. I try not to do this where my head chickens down like that. I just try to extend the spine from my neck in the same direction the rest of it's pointing. So I don't let the neck pull the rounding. I keep that head up and I widen the back around that while like the center pole is still up. Good? Extend the spine, same direction it's always pointing. I never have found a pose yet where your head has to lead the action. Maybe I got one in mind, but I don't know. All right, grab that left shin. Nice job, Katie. You gave him she gave you 20 seconds of resting. She did good. So any degree that you get your left shin up, even if it's your left ankle's on your right thigh and your hips are screaming, that's okay. You still grab a hold, lift your spine up, and stretch your upper body over. The broadening of the upper back and the shoulders going away from your ears is what we're looking for. Low back lifted, front ribs to back ribs, all ribs up, and breathe. Push the left foot into the right arm a little. All right, take a breath. Exhale, out you go. Okay. Seated on the floor, take both legs wide into straddle. And then bend both knees so both feet are flat to the floor, about where your knees were. Take your right hand and try to grab your left big toe. If you cannot grab your left big toe with your right hand, you put a strap around your left ankle. Left hand goes onto the thigh of the left side. So you're going to twist, but here's how I want you to twist. I want you to listen carefully. Holding onto the foot with the right hand, the left hand pressing the thigh. Press your left hand first to roll your left ribs back towards your right side. And then bend your right elbow, taking your right elbow towards the floor, somewhere in the middle of the 2 feet. Push your left hand into that left thigh. Head points the same direction as your ribs. Lift your spine. And the more that you try to bend that right elbow, pulling on that foot to pull you down and into the twist, the better. Now, if you brought your feet closer to try and make this easier, you made it harder. The wider the feet, the more effective it's going to get. Notice which hip wants to come up off of the block or the bolster. Do not try to flatten it down, but just do not let it fly up so you feel imbalanced, like you're going to fall. There you go, Suzette. Very nice. Take a breath. Now, Keep the pose on your left side. Your left half of your body's working hard. Press your right foot very hard into the floor, especially your right big toe bone, and then try to move your right knee to the right on its own strength. So it swings open a little. So it gets deep into them hip flexors. All right, switch sides. Left hand goes for right foot. You don't have to go far. This is going to work your hips and back regardless. You're warming up though, aren't you? I asked Tristan if she was warming up yet. She's like, yeah, I'm plenty hot. Seated forward folds, when done to correct the mid back to pelvis, create an immense amount of heat in the body. The pose we're working towards is actually a pose that yogis in the Himalayas would sleep in their cave next to the fire because it's too freaking cold, right? Caves don't come insulated. The left hand grabs that toe, right hand on the knee, bend your left elbow, letting your body rotate down. Push your right hand into the leg to rotate your right ribs back. Because this is about rotating the spine and then dragging that left rib cage into the lower position. Hold the pose and breathe. At any point, press your left big toe into the floor and try to open your left knee to the left farther, just rotating it. So the groin has to work. All right. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, up you come. Keep both knees bent, both feet flat to the floor. Keep them wide. I'm debating, but try not to let your feet turn out too hard. Try to turn your toes to point straight ahead. Take your fingertips onto the floor in front of you. Press your big toe joints down. Press the big toe down. For a minute, pick your heels 1 inch up off the floor while pushing the big toe bone down. Not grabbing your foot. Fingertips on the floor in front of you. Pick the heels up, push the big toe bone down. Now crawl your fingers out in front of you as far as you can. Just like that. Keep your heels off the floor though. The reason I want you to do this is that when you keep your heel off the floor, your hamstring flexes. When your hamstring flexes like this, one, you might get a cramp, but two, your back muscles have to do most of the work of the forward fold. That's why for some of you who are very flexible, this feels like I can't fold forward. This is where the lift comes into play. So the lower back has to lift up away from the hips. So take a nice breath, walk your hands back 1 inch or 2. Lift your lower back up away from the hips. Push your big toe down, keep your heel up. When you walk your hands forward, try to let your upper back stretch over the front ribs, but not letting the bend happen as much in the lower. The lower is trying to straighten up. The upper back is folding down. So there's a widening and roundness in your upper back. Then walk your hands wide as you can, like you're trying to get your fingers in front of your feet. And then you still got to try and keep your heels off the floor. For a lot of us, that won't happen. That takes an immense amount of ankle mobility. But it will make your hamstrings work. Anyone else feel their body warm up? Kurmasana, or tortoise, is a very challenging pose, but once you get the muscular structure of it, it creates a lot of body heat. Any of the forward folds like that will. All right, exhale, come on up. Bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. We're still going to keep going this, but we have to keep working different rotations to help your body get it. Heels touching, big toes touching, knees apart. Pull your heels close to your groin, move your groin close to your hips. When you press the feet together, Take your hands onto the floor in front of you and walk your hands out as far as you can. Then again, once you've walked your hands out as far as you can, be aware of where the bend happened in your spine. Your hips rolled forward a little bit, they have to. That is correct. But how much bend happened in the lower part of your spine, the lower third, the back, versus the mid and the upper? Tristan bent all mid and lower. This is flat. This is the opposite. So walk your hands back, lift your lower spine long, then when you walk your hands out, round the mid to upper part of the back. But the lower spine is always active, stretching out away from the hip. So you got to work your legs more by pushing your feet down and together. If you feel like your shoulders are shrugging into your ears, please feel free to walk your hands a little wider and bend your elbows, and then push your fingertips into the floor, especially the tip of your thumb. That'll be nice. Release your neck. There you go. So low back long, mid to upper back begins the rounding. That's what allows you down in these deeper folds. Because eventually in Kurmasana, your arms are underneath between your calf and thigh and behind you. And your forehead's on the floor and you're folded in deep. And then your feet go behind your head and there's a whole. Take a nice deep breath in, up you come. Keep your left leg where it is. Bend your right knee so your right foot is flat to the floor. You're going to take both hands onto the floor in front of you. Right knee is still. Did I say left or right? Oh, they got their right foot on the floor. You need to switch. They're trying to confuse me, make hard on. Right foot flat to the floor. Now we're on it. Left knee is still out to the side of the body. Right foot is flat to the floor. Everything is fine. Both hands, just fingertips just on the floor in front of you. Don't go very far out. Just stay pretty close. Because what I want you to do is I want you to take your right hand and grab the outer part of your right foot. And I just want you to try and pick the foot up any degree so your knee has to pull towards your shoulder. And then lean forward with your left hand. So it becomes a challenge of, can you pick this right foot up and then walk your left hand forward on the floor? Low back lifts, upper back into the bend. The more you bend your right elbow to pull that knee back, the more you're going to work the pose. Good modification, Lena. Excellent. This is going to be very confusing for your bodies because you're going in a forward fold where your leg's like, I should be laying down there. Your leg's going backwards and your body thinks it should be going back there. Exhale, switch legs. Right, fingertips on the floor, left foot flat, right knee laying to the side. Left hand grabs the outside of your left foot. Pick the foot up to any degree. It could be on a block. It could be your hand holding it. Bend the left elbow, pulling it back. Shoulder away from the ears. Let the back body broaden. Slide your right hand out, broadening the back more as the lower back lifts away from the hips. Low back straight, upper back broaden. And then notice where your left knee goes. It might want to sway off away from the hip. Flex that thigh and squeeze it in towards the shoulder. This is awkward, trust me. No one does this gracefully. All the years I've been doing this, teaching this, I fall off my all the time doing this. You stick around at the end and ask, I might do it so you can just get a good laugh anyway. At least they all deserve that. All right. Bend that left knee, last few seconds. Work it hard. Work it like you mean it. Breathe. All right. Relax. Both feet flat onto the floor, wide. Fingertips onto the floor in front of you. Lift your low spine up. Already just start here with your knees bent, walking your hands away from your body as far as you possibly can, but you only go as long as you can keep your lower spine lifted and your folding happens from the mid and upper back. This will teach your hips to hinge deeper. So keep that low spine long and lifted. Let the mid and upper back be the only points that bend. Shoulders away from the ears. And then, just for giggles, take your fingers, left hand goes under left knee, right hand goes under right knee. Walk them out wide. On the floor. There you go. Woo! Pause. Push your big toe joints down. Pick your heels up off the floor. Try. Because it's hard to push the big toe down and pick the heel up here, but it is paramount to saving your 4 elbow joints. Take a breath. Broaden the back, the upper back, lift the lower back away from the hips, and let your chest move downward any degree. And just hold. Mr. Umbrella, now stay here for 20 minutes. Take a nap. Exhale, bring your bodies up. It's warm, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Keep your legs where they are. We're going to go again. Fingertips on the floor in front of you. Lift the lower spine up. Push your big toe down, pick your heels up. And I want you to try and keep your heels up off the floor as much as you can during this. They'll come down eventually, but try. With your fingertips on the floor, lift the lower spine up. Right. Head nice and long. Walk your hands out. And as you start to go forward and you feel the lower back's desire to round, make the mid and upper back not hunch up, but go wide and do the rounding part of it. So the back body stretching over the front body. And then walk your hands out, really extend forward. Low back lifts. The lower back lifting is important because it takes pressure out of your pelvis. Good. Walk your hands under your feet, or under your knees, I'm sorry, under the knees. Now, pause here, flex your thighs. And now, don't squeeze the knee into the arm. Oh no. Walk your feet half an inch closer to each other on each side, and then work your back more. Bottom front ribs pull to back ribs, lift the spine out, round the upper back into it, and then walk the feet in another half inch. Very nice, Suzette. Good pose. Elise, feel free to stretch your legs out a little more so you start to fold deeper. There you go. Good widening of the upper back. You lengthen the lower back every last few seconds. Push the back side of your arm into the back of your knee to help open your shoulder from the armpit to the tricep. Let your heads extend out like it is a turtle poking out of its shell. Get your inner turtle on. Get your inner turtle outer. Exhale, come on up. Good Kurmasana pose. Nice. That's Kurmasana. That is how you work into that pose. Eventually your chest's on the floor and then you walk your feet behind your head, all that. That will warm your body up an immense amount the more you do it. There was one time I tried sleeping in that. I slept. I did not wake up good, but I slept. But it does warm your body up quite a bit. Let's twist and relieve the body just a little. Go ahead, lay on your back. Good, you okay? Just all the emotions. We'll just simple twist a couple times. Laying flat on your back, bend both knees. Draw both knees towards the body, no hands. Take both legs to the right. When you take both legs over, if both legs do not touch the floor, please prop your knees up with something. So there is some support into the back, relaxing in this pose. As you breathe in, stretch your left ribs to the left more. So you're still broadening from the back and front side of the body. Think about your left rib cage with each inhale is spreading away from the right ribs, and each exhale is them kind of settling into that new expanded place. They will come up and they will go down, but they're always still moving to the right. So each breath you take is the movement of the stretch. So don't try to torque your shoulders or your neck harder. Exhale, bring your body up. Move your props if you had any to the other side. And then pick your legs up, take it across. Move your right ribs to the right on the inhale, and the exhale, they just kind of settle there. Make your breath do the part that does the most work here. Take a nice deep breath in, roll back to center. If you have a space where you can put your legs up on a chair, a couch, or straight up the wall, I would do so now. Cover your feet with something, socks, blanket. It's okay. Now, you can put something under your sacral plate, bolster, rolled up blanket's really nice. I like a round thing because the sacral plate is round. Just kind of stretch your legs up, support your head, get your jacket nice as that. Good. Always prepared. Very nice. The best yoga props are the ones you find laying around next to you that make it work. And take your feet just a little bit apart. Don't squeeze them in towards center. Make sure there is some amount of space between the knees. You want the hips to release. You want the circulation to change. You've warmed the body up. You've warmed up the blood, as Mr. Anger would say. Now we must make it pump through the body. So with your legs up in the air or on the chair in some way, let your body relax. Let your eyes close. Nice chair, Suzette. I know who made that. It's an original. Let your eyes close, tongue away from the roof of the mouth. And again, on your first few breaths, or every breath, check in to see where you are. Where are you with your breath? Where are you with the mental, emotional state? Where are you physically? Let the first answer be the only answer necessary, because it is the answer of where you are in the present moment, not to rationalize or theorize or complicate. But see where you are now versus those answers for yourself when you first came in. Are they different? Did a house become a home? Did fatigue become spent or exhausted? What are the shifts and changes that you created for you? And can you not worry about the result of your shift and change, but let your greater lesson be that you have that power to create shift and change? We can't make the snow stop, but there are things that we can change about how we perceive it, receive it, work with it, learn from it, and go forward. And that's true for all things. Can't always control it. We can recognize how we react and go forward differently. So, my friends, rest for a few moments and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice.